So I just wanted to talk about this one book series that I really liked, and that is the Expeditionary Force books. Now, I don't really know how popular these are amongst people who talk about sci-fi. I tend to lean more towards fantasy, so I'm not too up to date on what's popular for sci-fi books right now. My tastes tend to be a little bit more classical sci-fi, things like I, Robot or the Foundation series. I really love those books, obviously, because anyone who wants to pretend to be smart says they like Isaac Asimov, right? But I've been reading through these books, and I have to say they're really good for how I'm aware of these things. It's what you would call a military sci-fi sort of thing, and my metric for what makes a good military sci-fi is if there are interesting solutions that seem impossible on the face of them, but then they find a clever solution that bypasses these things. And this series does that really well. Oftentimes you think a problem is impossible until you take a different point of view of things. It's not dissimilar to how Terry Mancour tends to treat his magic in the Spellmonger books. It's not necessarily about having the overwhelming power, it's about applying power in the right way. This is very much a series that's more into like that Black Ops military sci-fi more than it is about giant fleet action. There's some of that, but most of the real tense moments come down to we have a plan, we're executing it. Oh no, something went wrong. Let's change it. Change it this way on the fly. And the series does a good job keeping things tense by not having every plan go off without a hitch. No, there's still bumps and hurdles along the way, but it's a fun military sci-fi series. On top of that, I have to say this series is surprisingly hilarious. You wouldn't think that for a series in which the death of the human race is a common theme, but the banter between the two main characters in this is honestly some of the funniest stuff I've read in a long time. It's not like a new dynamic on humor or anything. It is basically a funny man, straight man combo with, the funny man and the straight man kind of flipping sides from time to time depending on the situation. But it's just really funny at times. If I had to say there are any problems with it, I don't know. I guess there's not really a lot of cohesive themes to it or motifs that keep popping up. To the extent you could find one, I guess you could say it's that intelligence is the ultimate weapon, but I mean, it feels like a stretch and a half, even for me. And I suppose it kind of drags on in the middle a bit. It hits this problem. The series kind of hits this problem where it doesn't feel like a lot of forward action is happening in the plot. It feels like they're just kind of going from crisis to crisis. And this is kind of lampshaded in the series, but it can make the series in the middle feel kind of like they're not moving forward much. This has been kind of solved in later books, I would say. So if you ever get that impression while reading through the series, I would say as long as you're enjoying the moment-to-moment stuff, just tough it out for a little, it gets better. But that's the only real criticisms I could say about this series. I suppose the setting isn't the most unique in the world. It's kind of just like a Cold War between two apex species and humans get caught up in the middle of all that kind of situation with a standard kind of progenitor race technology in the background. So if you've ever played Mass Effect, think like the Protheans. They're called the Elders in this one. It doesn't really matter, but they're kind of their standard progenitor race sort of situation. And whereas I can say I can tend to enjoy all the alien species we get to know very well, they can kind of feel like a race of hats from time to time, and they're not the most inventive aliens I can ever think of. I mean, one is just a race of cat people, another is a race of, spider people. Bizarrely, the beetle people tend to be the nicest ones. It's weird. These giant bugs, the size of a small hatchback, end up being kind of like the nicest and kindest aliens. It's bizarre. So, the setting doesn't exactly reinvent the wheel or anything, but at the same time, it does this so well that it's hard to complain about it. It is a very good military sci-fi that also happens to be really freaking funny, as long as you can stomach kind of an asshole AI. Don't mistake me, Skippy is not a bad person. He's just kind of a dick.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
From now on, we'll be known as X-Force.
Isn't that a little derivative?